because you're not used to having the tube right next to the door. Okay, so you just go a couple of steps too far. So, and I pointed it out to a couple of you guys that were sharing, so just be aware of that sort of thing.
I'll go through a couple of things here now. I'm really into, you know, be able to move that handpiece around in your hand to get your angles right. Now you can hold that thing pretty tight, and to get the angles changed on the handpiece, you really got to move your body around. Where I'm one, you know, this is my handpiece here, you can see a fair bit of wear on there. Once they get a bit older, you know, I'll have that thumb right back there, especially on this first blow on the belly, to get your angle right. Coming around the crutch, you know, you might have your hand right around the front like that. You know, long blow, we've seen a few bottom teeth coming off in the long blow because you're shearing the sheep a fair bit away from you as well, but other times, you know, just move your thumb up on your handpiece and see what happens to the bottom tooth. So it might be your reach, but you can still use your hand. Now, I remember we were shearing in England with a Cartwright Terrier, and he blew his wrist up, and we were shearing these big Cheviots, and I was having a crack and I was getting hooked up, and he said, just grab your handpiece a little bit tighter with your back fingers. And so what that does is lift your front up. I wasn't getting hooked up, got your flow going, and away you went. And that's the biggest thing in shearing competitions, is to get your flow going. If it takes you 3 sheep to get your flow going, we'll go to the grandstand. You've got to be flowing on that first sheep, and you know, I like to grab a really good Coman sheep. It doesn't have to be the best sheep in your pen, but I don't know what Artie does. I think that you've got to get that flow going, and it starts with your first blow. It even starts with the hock. I haven't got a sheep here to show you the hock. I'll grab another one in a minute, but you get this first blow down. There are a couple of things. We want to try to clear down to that first teat if we can. Sometimes you might have to put a little bit of a clearing blow or breaking blow. The other thing to get these angles right is where your elbow is. If you're here like a duck and your wings are out, see how that bottom tooth wants to go that way. If you get your wing in, see how that top tooth's nearly going to be your leading tooth. So when you start this blow, use your free hand to make an entry point up here. Once you get into there, then we want the heel right over there. That means your elbow in, and I'm only holding this handpiece with 2 fingers just to show you how easy it is once you've got your angles right. Right. Come into there, and there's a real track in there. You can lift that comb up, see how that comb's gone right down to the bottom of that belly. Quite easy. I wasn't forcing it, just your angles right. When you break out, what we've done there is, that's a real bad one for shearing comps. People chopping out there, when they drop on the long blow, the first thing the judges see is a big second cut. So we've got a nice straight line there. You know, a little bit of pressure with your knee in there to get that, so you can get a nice shot straight down. Nice full blow on the belly, like on the brisket there. Same thing, down, clear that teeth. So yeah, once you've got that first blow going and cleared up, that sets your whole belly up. So as we step up, here's your angle change. Now, the freehand here, you know, this really comes down to shearing merinos, and I know when I go over New Zealand shearing for a little while and that, I get quite lazy in the left hand, and you come back here and you get bogged down on merinos. You know, a lot of people just put their hand here, but what we want to do, this wool's lying down that way, we want to be able to stand it up. So while we've got our left hand here, we can utilise it by pulling that wool back up. And this is where we're talking about getting our entry right. If you enter too high, which is only an inch off the skin, see what happens to the wool? Folds over, so it bounces out. If we enter on the skin, that's going to cut, isn't it? So exactly the same. If we can stand that wool up, enter on the skin, that comb's going to run. Pull out that comb will run. Nice and deep in here. I like to clear that. And then this one here, we've got to be able to make a flat area under there. We can't see what we're doing, but if you practice or play around with the shorn sheep, you can see what the skin does. Now, if I pull straight back like that, what will happen is a wrinkle will pop up here. See that? And people are using that free hand, but not in the right way. Now, If you slow David Fagan down 10 years ago, even on his crossbreeds, he used to go in here like this and just flick it up as he do that shot. And see how that wrinkles up behind here? And that, all that's standing up. So get into there, stand it up and roll that sheep over a little bit with your knee so we can get down to that hip. I'll just break out here. But because you've got that wall standing up, and have a look at the size of that blow that went in there. Now if we pull back this way, can you see that wrinkle there? People start hitting that, they start lifting, or that wrinkle ends up on here. So it's a spread the hand. I'm quite lucky, or unlucky, I've got big hands. But straight up towards his head. Then that creates another wrinkle there, so we want to get rid of that. So often you can just grab your fingers there, roll that in, stretch him up like that. And I probably made that wrinkle worse by breaking that out, but same thing, just straighten your knee up, nice and deep in here, just so the top tooth's sticking out. Now, in shearing competitions, if they crutch, don't go near it. The two reasons why we had a show last weekend up in the Mallee, like at Karoonda, had a fairly big crutch, beautiful presented sheep. You go anywhere near that and your edge is gone. You know, and the judges will tell you beforehand, you know, they're not judging the crutched area, so don't go near it. You know, we're trying to save time here, plus, you know, your cut can go just like that. Here we're in nice white wool. You imagine how much sand you're going to pick up in there. You get into a 12 or 15 sheep final, you're going to be throwing gear at the sheep. So we just turn around, stand that wool up to your free hand, straight towards your foot. Same again, straight towards your foot, point it down to the ground. So yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, one around there, 4, 2 undermines. And you've got a fair bit of wool taken off, nice and clean. Now, I just see, if you want to cut in any time, Artie. Yep. I just see a few people on it.
You've got it, Artie.
I don't know if it's a Queensland thing or not, but just stepping back to clear the head, you're walking away from your work. We want to get that sheep crank and get him up. So after we do the undermine, lift him up. Look at head if you're struggling a little bit. When you lift him up, see how I pull the wool down with your knee. That changes the angle of your wool. 1, 2. Sometimes, if you want to clear the side of the face, I'll keep my knee in front of the brisket. You can actually pull all that wrinkle down behind your knee, and we can make an entry point in there quite easy. You can take that, if you're doing a top side neck, you can take that cheek off. But that's a good way if they're really muffly headed to clear this head up, is to pull down like that as you do that ear. Then we can break that out and that ear's ready to go around. I'll just walk him back and shear out of position here a bit so you can see what I'm doing. But now, most merinos, unless they're really straight, see how that neck's formed there? You've got your dewlap or your bottom wrinkle, and then you've got this flap here and it always hangs down. Now if I plough up that neck just with my hand here, once I get to here I'm going to start ripping some bark off or leaving a heap of wool on. So what we try to do is just control the head with our elbow and just stand that neck up straight, so it's straight up. And then we can really clean that bottom side up. If you're doing top side, the same thing. Straighten that neck up with that free hand. If you leave it loose and flappy, you know, everyone knows what it's like to shear that, it's quite hard. So we really want to straighten those flat areas up. So a neck like this, you might sneak the top side up so you get your mate on the last side, but I'll show you what we do with the bottom side. Start in the middle of the brisket or a little bit higher, just to the top of that wrinkle, and I feel it goes in. We want to break that open. Now, we want to avoid getting the handpiece high and chopping out, because the angles of the sheep change dramatically under here. So that's how the sheep's formed. If I chop out like that, I'm going to be cutting out into the wool. Really obviously to the judges. So we just want to drop back to that point on the shoulder and come around that wrinkle. Free hand, drop it back on the skin, keep them cobs down, and just work up underneath that wrinkle. When we break out, just use your finger and break all that wool away. Then I like to go in here and just clean up the back of the head, but keep the cobs low, and often you can get under there quite easy. by having the cogs right down, and you can get a nice flat area in there.
So you just, he altered his footwork there just, and it's really minor, where he put that shot in and he just adjusted his foot back just so he could line that shot up. Because if you, 9 times out of 10, if you don't adjust your feet in the right for that angle, you're going to ride out of gear. So you're not going to be able to keep your bottom tooth down as well as when you get the right angle for using your feet.
You can see here I've cleared that wrinkle. I've snuck over it a little bit of a voting mistake here, but snuck over it a little bit there. A little bit of a second cut there, but I'll show you how to hide that later on. Here the back of the head, you can do 1 or 2. I like to do 2 because that head changes shape there fairly well, and often you can finish a long blow and you end up leaving a patch of wool here, so a couple in there. Now here, like to stand that wool up, same thing. You know, these are cutting 6 or 7 kilos, 7 kilo or something. A fair bit of weight, you can see how it's pulling the skin down, so we stand that up. Get in nice and deep there. And really throw them cogs around to keep that bottom tooth on the skin. So that's your 2-blow neck. You can put a little one in there, just a clearing blow, or if it's combing alright, go straight in. And just into there, you don't have to go real deep. I like to work down that leg a little bit. You know, if they're not bad shearing, you might sweep another one up in there. It's no set pattern, but there's no use doing a blowout here if you're making a heap of second cuts. Right, I'll have to take him back a bit so you can see this long blow. When we start this long blow, keep your cogs down when we start. Remembering we've got a heap of wool here to rip off and only a little bit here, so we want to get as much at the start because there's the bulk of the wool's here.
Can you hear him in there? I'll put some.
Nice and full. You only got, if you can see where Artie can see here, is 1 tooth poking out. Flat. There's 3. Now we've lined with that neck blow. What I like to do on reels like sheep like this that are a bit loose in the skin is just to stand that wool up, you know, so it combs. Using your thumb in the wool here to pull that wool up, pull the skin out. Bring your head up towards you. Now, here the backbone, so we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Big one over the backbone now. Nice and deep. Right up underneath that here. 6 blow, long blow. And you've got clean. I reckon on shearing merinos, it's a little bit different with crossbreds and you know, real brown merinos, but you can see the bulk of the wool I got up here compared to what we got up here. See how much of the comb here? If you measure that comb, geez, chocolate. So it's a reasonable sized sheep and you got away with 6 blows. Here's that little sneaky one there. There's a second cut under there what no one can see. But we've cleared that wrinkle. That sheep's sitting there quite easy. Now these blows here, going to work down that wrinkle, pulling it up. And this is where I'm saying, like, you know, we can start boxing this neck up and you lose 12, 15, 20, 30 points in that much of the sheep.
Because that wrinkle line is lying over that way. Yeah. You've got to pull it backwards so you can see.
Yep. Another little one in here is to pull this skin up here, too, when you're shearing it. All that skin's up underneath your fingers. Control of his head, here's the free hand, cleaning that neck right up. Now just stand here a little bit. On back returns, a fair few of you coming high like that. Now I think that starts from when you're learning that this jams. And not anyone that's been doing teaching and that, when it starts jamming like that, the kids don't know what's going on. And it's the same here, it starts jamming, so what they usually do is go high like that. So when we enter, we're only entering the 3 or 4 teeth here before we turn the handpiece. So when we, on our back return, we want to come back here. It's the shortest way back, straight to there. You see how much wool I got up in there? I'll lift him up. That's more than a comb full there. Straight into there, straight back again. Here's your free hand, pull that wool around. On feet like this, I'll let it go now. Draw 2 or 3 inches of the wool of the feet, just to that point. Then we lift the feet up and often the weight of the wool will pull over that shoulder. Same thing, pull that wool around. Nice and deep into here. If they've got a bit of a zoomer, I like to come right underneath it so you can read the back of your comb. Especially, I'll grab a wrinkly neck one later on today or something to show you. Yep. Keep that nice and short in there. There's no use stretching it right out like that. You know, that's 2 handpieces long. Keep it nice and short. It's only about a handpiece and a half long. Plus, we've got this hollow, sorry if you can't see it. We've got this hollow in here. There's a nice flat area there now. If I pull up, you've got that hollow there. You know, you'll probably get pinged twice coming down the last side for a little ridge here. So yeah, nice and short, keep it full. You know, and run the tree up. Sometimes I like to whack a little one down there. Dion Morell does that a fair bit, just to keep his rhythm up, keep the keep the down tube swinging. Or if you want to turn that one right down, just turn your toe out and get down there. Yep. Down into the plate. You want another one to steer him up. I guess get him up with his head up a bit easier. Same thing with these blades here. Just your top tooth poking out. Lift the heap of skin up here, then you'll make a nice flat area into there. Once we get to here, you really want to drop those cobs down there. That's a big one for judges here. People come here, they hold their line and go straight out there. Bang, bang every time. You know, we nearly see it with everyone here. So we come into there, and just throw your cobs down there and that'll keep that bottom tooth down. Or, if you do go down, you've got to place that sheet down like that. So you come down here, free hand to pull that leg towards it, into there. Free hand. Once we get to there, that's the only time we need pressure on that leg. If you bury it in here, there's no way you can shear that, can you? Without getting it clean, if you can see that. And you see a lot of people, they just bury the fist in here all the way down that last side, and a patch of wool there, 4, 5, 8, 10 points every time. You've got to be using this free hand. Same thing. Some people bury it in here. See how I've got wrinkle here? They're going to get hooked up, so you might even stretch your hand out here to get started. Or thumb. Flat area. Same thing, nice flat area, then roll your hand in there. Same thing, don't go and chase that truck things in the shows. You might have to do it here, but drill over feet.
That's why he did the head.
But yeah, you can see, I think that area there, there's a fair bit happens in the shows, doesn't it? There. Yeah. Did you want to add anything? Footwork? Rightio, you want to do one?